local college football teams all in the postseason.
It's exciting to be able to play for conference championship.
LSU, Southern, Southeastern, and Tulane have all beaten the odds to get here.
You guys had this goal in mind, and it's special.
And now, it's time to lock in.
We got to figure out a way to get through this game.
History is on the line as the Green Wave, Tigers, Lions, and Jaguars chase championships.
I know the pulse of the team. I know the mindset of the team, so we'll be ready to play some good football.
Good Friday evening, everyone. I'm WDSU sports anchor Fletcher Mackel here live in Atlanta, where the LSU Tigers are taking on the powerful Georgia Bulldogs in the SEC championship game. In fact, it is a championship weekend for 4 programs in South Louisiana. Some great games on Saturday.
And I'm Sharif Ishak uptown as Tulane gets ready for a massive game inside at Yulman Stadium. This is going to be the biggest game on campus since 2005. Tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And hey, it's been a great football season for teams from South Louisiana. LSU, Tulane, Southeastern, and Southern all have a chance for special postseasons, Fletcher.
Yeah, you're right, Sharif. And over the next 30 minutes, we're going to break down all the matchups. Here's how they look right now. LSU, again, here in Atlanta, taking on Georgia in the SEC championship game. Southern traveling to Jackson State, undefeated Jackson State for the SWAC championship game. Southeastern in Birmingham to take on Samford in the second round of the FCS playoffs. But we start with Sharif uptown. I think it is the biggest game of the weekend, potential history in Yulman Stadium. Tulane versus UCF.
Yeah, Fletcher, during a stretch run for Tulane, I have said this is the biggest game for Tulane since that 1998 Liberty Bowl against BYU. But this championship game against Central Florida truly is the biggest game for Tulane since that Liberty Bowl and the biggest game in the history of Yulman Stadium. Since that undefeated 1998 season, the Wave has had only 3 winning seasons from 99 through 2015.
And caught, touchdown!
And just 2 bowl appearances. And once Willie Fritz took over in 2016,
Coach, welcome.
that's when the rebuild started taking place.
Into the end zone, Spears! Touchdown, Tulane!
3 winning seasons, including this season, and a soon-to-be 3rd bowl appearance.
How special has it been for you?
It really special. It really has. I'm just really happy for everybody involved in the program, and you know, all the students. I think the students have jumped on board. You know, we've had great student support.
Support after a great turnaround by this program, maybe one of the bigger turnarounds in college football in quite some time, from 2-10 to 10-2 regular season champs and hosting the championship game.
To the end zone, pass is caught!
Something that has changed the perception of this program nationally.
When I come in off of a game and I'll get my phone and look at it and I'll see how many text messages I had. I got 190 something after the Cincinnati game, and then, you know, I kind of get done with those and turn it off for a while. I got 70, and then I turn it off for a while. I got 90, you know, and, you know, just a lot of people that are interested.
Definitely had a chip on our shoulder all since last season. You know, the work that we put in all throughout the spring, the summer, all throughout the off season is what truly got us here.
We set out on August 2nd, 2022, Tuesday. We said that we'd hold the championship game here, and we knew we still had all of our goals in front of us. We just had to go 1-0, and that's just the mentality we had, and we had faith that, you know, whether we were going somewhere else to play or whether we finish out the season strong, we just manifested that it'd be here.
And here they are, Tulane trying to punch its ticket to the Cotton Bowl while at the same time get some revenge against UCF, who handed the Wave their only conference loss in this 10-win season.
Myself included, everybody in the locker room, you know, we're real fired up, and it's, you know, it's all we could think about. We got off our track for a second, our 1-0 track for a second after that game.
These are the guys we want to play. You know, we were watching the USF game, and, you know, honestly, I was almost pulling for them. You know, I wanted to see these guys again. I think we left a lot on the field. the first go-round.
And I think the Tulane defense would agree with Michael Pratt. The Knights just ate them alive on the ground for 336 yards, 6.2 yards a carry on the number 2 ranked defense in the American, which doesn't sit well with linebacker Nick Anderson.
500 yards on offense. And another thing that really had me upset was the conversions on third down, because that's something that we also try to implement as a defense, is getting off the field on third down.
They have 300-plus rushing yards, and as a defense, that's kind of embarrassing. That's something you don't want out there, And we got to do a better job of stopping the run, fitting up gaps, getting guys down, and forcing turnovers as well.
All right, let's talk more Tulane with Tulane sideline reporter Maddie Hudak. And Maddie, they don't get to this point, this 10-2 in this championship game, without their head coach, Willie Fritz. An outstanding job this season. He's kept them very focused.
That he has. I mean, you don't go from 2-10 to 10-2 without leadership that starts at the top. And as much as the players deserve credit for all of this turnaround, I just think him believing in them, it goes back to, guys like Tajay Spears back in high school, where he signed him early even though he didn't have the ACT scores to get in. Just his belief in these players when they might not believe in themselves. The unanimous AAC Coach of the Year is well-deserved, and quite frankly, if they win this game on Saturday, I think he should be a front-runner for the national award.
Let's talk about one of the guys you just said, Tajay Spears. I honestly didn't think he was going to be that amazing. He's been a key to this offense all season long, quite a few big games. Player of the Year, the Offensive Player of the Year, more than 1,100 yards rushing, led the conference in touchdowns.
Yeah, and he's the first non-QB to win the award at that. And to have kind of a slower start to the season, I think he was a little in his head a little bit. But to just talk about those accolades, running back's one of those positions that it's so much more visceral when you're on the sideline. And I could see in Memphis last year that I was looking at Alvin Kamara 2.0, quite honestly, and just his ability as a pass catcher in that backfield and really as a blocker in the passing game and, saving Michael Pratt from a lot of hits. He's just an all-around back, a great person, and couldn't be more well-deserving alongside Coach Fritz.
Great segue to Michael Pratt, the quarterback, responsible for 30 touchdowns this season, more than 2,700 yards. One of the guys you said had to have a good season, and here he is.
Yeah, and I mean, he was unhealthy last year, so that has a lot to do with things, but just his ability to improve his completion percentage. He spread the ball out to a bunch of different receivers and is just such a leader back there. The players really look to him for guidance, and I think he never really tries to be the hero at the expense of the team. He always takes what the defense gives him, and really is just such a complimentary dual-threat quarterback that works so well in tandem with Tajay Spears. They just really are all loaded in that backfield.
And quickly, Tulane wins this game, Maddie, if they do what?
Start strong on both sides of the ball, score, and don't let John Rice Plumlee gash you up the middle.
All right. She is Tulane's sideline reporter, Maddie Hudak, who has got all the great information. She'll be roaming the sideline tomorrow during the AAC championship game. Fletcher, back to you in Atlanta.
All right, Sharif and Maddie, thank you very much. Great insight from Maddie. Right now, we want to talk about the Southern Jaguars. Southern has a new head coach, Eric Dooley. Born and raised in New Orleans, he actually played his college football at Grambling State. He's now the head coach of Southern University, and in just his first year in Baton Rouge, he has the Jaguars playing in the SWAC championship game. By winning the 49th installment of the famed Bayou Classic last weekend, Southern won the SWAC's Western Division and a berth into the conference championship game. It's the Jags' first appearance in the title game since 2019, so only a handful of head coach Eric Dooley's players have been on this type of stage.
Can't justify experience. When you have experience, it helps a great deal because you've been there before. So those guys understand, sometimes guys haven't played in any type of championship game. So it's a difference, but that's why we coach the guys up every day and everything that we do and say so that they understand when they get there it's not anything that they haven't seen before.
Southern's opponent is one they've seen. The undefeated Jackson State Tigers, led by NFL Hall of Famer Deion Sanders. Earlier this year, Jackson State beat Southern 35-0 during the regular season. In fact, JSU is the reigning conference champs, and earlier this week, they swept all of the major league awards. Quarterback Shedeur Sanders, Deion's son, is the SWAC Offensive Player of the Year. He set a JSU single-season record with 32 passing touchdowns. Linebacker Aubrey Miller Jr. is the Defensive Player of the Year. Wide receiver Kevin Coleman Jr. earns Freshman of the Year honors, and Coach Prime is the SWAC Coach of the Year for a second year in a row.
When you work together and you win, a lot of people get recognized. It's no stranger that most participants in the Pro Bowls stem from teams that have winning records. Normally those Super Bowl type teams normally have the most people participating in Pro Bowls and postseason achievement and awards. So this just constitutes and validates what we've been teaching.
Southern is currently a 17.5-point underdog against Jackson State, but Coach Dooley says don't underestimate his team. An upset is possible.
I do know the team. I know the pulse of the team. I know the mindset of the team. So we'll be ready to play some good football Saturday.
Best of luck to the Southern Jaguars on Saturday. The winner of the SWAC championship between Southern and Jackson State will advance to face North Carolina Central in the Celebration Bowl, which takes place here in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. Stay with us, everyone. When we return, we're talking all about the Tigers. It is a David versus Goliath matchup here in Atlanta, Georgia. LSU versus the powerful UGA Bulldogs. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our Chasing a Championship special. I'm Fletcher Mackel here live in Atlanta. My colleague, sports anchor Sharif Ishak, is live in Yulman Stadium on Tulane's campus. We are highlighting 4 great college football programs. Sharif has already told you about Tulane. In just a minute, he's going to tell you about the Southeastern Lions. I just told you about the Southern Jaguars. Now it's time to talk about the other team in Baton Rouge, the LSU Tigers. LSU is taking on the Georgia Bulldogs here in the SEC championship game. LSU is currently a 17.5-point underdog, but if they can pull off the upset, they'll advance to play in the Cotton Bowl in New Orleans on New Year's Eve, and that would be a very special ending to Brian Kelly's first season in Baton Rouge. After a storied career at Notre Dame, Brian Kelly arrived in Louisiana 1 year ago this week.
This is my first day in Louisiana. I didn't know what this meant until today. I know what it means today, and I'm going to learn a lot more as we go.
Kelly learned quickly that the competition game in and game out in the Deep South is fierce. Tough losses against Florida State and Tennessee taught him that. But the calm, cool, CEO-like approach Kelly brought to Baton Rouge resonated with his team. So the high IQ football coach watched a group of smart players put his plans in place, soaring to number 5 in the national rankings. But because the Tigers are still a rebuilding program, unforeseen bumps in the road, like the loss at Texas A&M, derailed a dream season and a chance at the playoffs. All in all, though, Kelly happy with a 9-3 record.
You know, we're at that level of, conscious competence. We know what to do. We know how to do it, but it's really hard for us. And we want to get to, where it's unconscious competence. We don't have to think about it. It's just we do it, and we do it the right way every day. And I think it's still a process for us. They understand it a lot better, so I think that's where that level is. But we still have another level to go.
The level they're trying to reach, the one Georgia is at right now, perennial power and national championship contender.
Yeah, we're playing the best team, but, we're coming with it all. This is our. Maybe we can't go to the national championship, but this will be our national championship then.
While most expect Georgia will win on Saturday afternoon, UGA head coach Kirby Smart says no way he's underestimating Brian Kelly.
Brian Kelly's teams going way back to when we played him at Notre Dame. They had very high-quality preparation, coaching staff. They do a great job in all areas. He's very organized. He has a process. He knows how to run a program.
Now, if the LSU Tigers, again, upset the Georgia Bulldogs, they'll play in the Sugar Bowl. But if they fall to Georgia, most bowl game projections have the Tigers playing in the Citrus Bowl, which is in Orlando on Monday, January 2nd. Some projections have them facing the Purdue Boilermakers out of the Big Ten. Another projection has them facing the Illinois Fighting Illini, also out of the Big Ten. The bowl games will be revealed coming up on Sunday. Now, before I came to Atlanta, I had a chance chance to catch up with one of our friends, someone that everyone in Louisiana knows very, very well, popular radio show host Matt Moscona, an LSU insider from ESPN Radio. And the first question I asked him, is it fair to say that Brian Kelly's first season in Baton Rouge has been a huge success?
Man, I think context matters so much. And you've got to consider where LSU was the past 2 years. Back-to-back 500 seasons. You fire a coach midway through last year. The team, for much of the second half of last year, quit. And to come into this year where the Vegas projected win total was 6.5, and LSU was picked 5th in the West by the media, to win the West, to beat Bama, to be the first team ever to win at Auburn and Florida in the same season, to be at 9 wins, it's remarkable. I don't know that anybody had this level of success year one on the docket. So resounding success, that might not be emphatic enough to say.
Matt, following up on that, is it important that the LSU Tigers win one of these final 3? Obviously, the upset against A&M, very disappointing. They're a huge underdog against Georgia. Let's say they get Purdue in the Citrus Bowl. Do they have to win that game to maybe go into the offseason with some positive momentum?
Yeah, I think a worst-case scenario would be if you end up with 5 losses, because you could look at two sides of that coin. And I understand the vantage point of, well, if I had told you before the season LSU was going to win 9 games, go to Atlanta, everybody would have taken it. That's true. That's absolutely true. But the goalposts move. The expectations change the more LSU won. So there can be coexisting realities here. You can be bitterly disappointed with the A&M loss and what you lost as a result of it. A chance for the New Year's Six, potential playoff, but also realizing that it was a resounding success and you won. Specifically with the possibility for a bowl win, yeah, if LSU goes to the Citrus Bowl and manages to win that game and gets to 10, a lot of times you do get a bowl bump. In 2010, LSU beat Texas A&M in the Cotton Bowl and really used that to propel them into 2011, which ended up being an undefeated season. 2018, LSU won the Fiesta Bowl. Of course, 2019 was a magnificent season. So in some respects, yes, I do believe that there can be a bowl bump, and it would be a feel-good in the belly if LSU does find a way to wrap up this first season with Brian Kelly with a win instead of potentially 3 straight losses.
All right, Matt Moscona, thank you very much. Sharif, you are an LSU graduate. You worked in Baton Rouge covering the Tigers for 6 years before you came to WDSU. So now I have a question for you, and it involves LSU quarterback Jayden Daniels. Does he turn pro? Some say he will. Or does he come back to LSU for his senior season, maybe a chance at the Heisman and a national championship? Your thoughts on Jayden Daniels?
If you're asking me, I think he should come back for 1 season. Now, before they played Florida State in the Superdome, I told you he was a dark horse for the Heisman this year. If he comes back next year, he won't be a dark horse. He will certainly be a Heisman contender, and so will LSU be a playoff contender next season. But it would also help him to come back to kind of fine-tune his passing game a little bit, because at the next level, he has to make those passes over the middle of the field. I want to see him let it rip a little bit more down the field. Yes, 15 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions. He's completing close to 69% of his passes, but I think he can fine-tune his passing game and make a big difference in his draft stock next offseason.
All right, great insight on LSU, Sharif. And right now, I want to head west on I-12 and ask you for more insight. Please tell us about a fantastic program in Hammond, America, the SLU Lions.
Yes, Hammond America is taking the party to Birmingham tomorrow to take on the Sanford Bulldogs, and they're coming off a bye week in the first round of the FCS playoffs, and they are red hot. They're 10-1, winners of 9 straight games, and this game is certainly going to be much tougher for Southeastern than that game last week against Idaho.
The Southeastern Lions won a fun one in the first round over Idaho.
To the end zone for Kovacs.
Both teams combined for more than 1,100 yards of offense.
He's in.
But it was a missed 39-yard field goal in the final seconds that gave the Lions the 45-42 win and sent them to the Sweet 16 of the FCS playoffs.
He pulled it.
We've been here 3 times. This will be the 3rd time, and you know we got to figure out a way to get through this game, and so it's quite a chore. It's a challenge for our guys, and one I hope we're going to embrace this week during the course of practice.
One thing Frank Scelfo's team needs to embrace this week, ball security. Unlike last season's second-round game against James Madison, turning it over 5 times in the 59-20 loss.
And he's intercepted.
We turned it over so many times against Montana and again against James Madison last year. It took us, you know, and here comes the deluge of points, and now we're out of it. So we got to take care of the football. I mean, these are good teams, and you can't make mistakes against them, and if you do, they're going to take advantage of it.
And Samford will certainly take advantage of turnovers with that high-powered offense, averaging almost 34 points and 435 yards of offense per game, led by quarterback Michael Hyers, who's completing almost 77% of his passes, throwing for almost 3,300 yards, 35 touchdowns to only 3 interceptions.
When you watch them distribute the ball around, they do a good job catching it, and then run after catch is really critical. We're going to have to do a great job tackling. We're going to have to really rally and tackle on defense.
Touchdown, Mr. Head.
The winner of this game between Samford and Southeastern will have a very, and I mean very tough task. They'll face either North Dakota State, the defending FCS national champs, who, by the way, have won 1 million national championships at the FCS level, or perennial powerhouse Montana. NDSU and Montana face off this weekend. And stay with us, everyone. When we return, Fletcher and I will make some predictions on all of the big games. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Fletcher Mackel here live in Atlanta for the SEC Championship. My colleague, sports anchor Sharif Ishak, live in Yulman Stadium, where Tulane is taking on UCF in the American Championship on Saturday. It's the moment of truth, Sharif. Predictions for you and I. I'll go first. I guess we could say age before beauty. I know you'll like that. Here are my predictions. The 4 big games on Saturday. I'm going with the Tulane Green Wave, beating Central Florida and playing in the Cotton Bowl. I think this Tulane team is fantastic. They're 10-2. They could be 12-0. They shouldn't have lost to Southern Miss, and they could have beaten UCF. I do think the Georgia Bulldogs defeat LSU. Georgia's the #1 team in the country for a reason. LSU not quite ready for prime time just yet. Same goes for Jackson State. Jackson State is a powerhouse program. Southern is very good, but Jackson State wins. And I have Southeastern going on the road and defeating Samford. I think Southeastern advances in the FCS playoff. Sharif, who do you have and why? So I guess age before beauty, and now it's beauty's time to make his picks. I'm going to go with Tulane, and I think Tulane wins big in this game against Central Florida. I think Georgia beats LSU. They might be able to cover the 17.5 points. I think Georgia is just much better than LSU. If they play this game next year, maybe LSU can win this game. I also have Jackson State, and I think Southeastern finally gets past the second round. I think they beat Samford. And that's going to do it for our great show. I hope everyone enjoys all of the games tomorrow. Before we go, enjoy the holiday parade that you can watch live on WDSU, then enjoy all the football. For Sharif Ishak, I'm Fletcher Mackel. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great weekend.